Maddens with me, Lynette Fay, coming to you here from the snug upstairs in the pub, widely referred to as Belfast's home of traditional music. And you can watch on YouTube also. But thank you for listening on Spotify and Apple. Please do leave a review and subscribe so you don't miss any of our chats. And this week I have a couple in the snug. Caitlín Nic Gabhann and Ciarán and Maonaigh. Both have very musical roots. Both are from musical families. Caitlín in County Meath and Ciarán in County Donegal. Tá Gaelic acu Birch Fosta agus Tógu le Gaeilge. Professional musicians. Caitlín has just finished up a 2-week-long concertina tour, one in Donegal, a week in Donegal and a week in Meath. That was amazing, by the way. We'll talk about that. And Ciarán's latest album, Cailte sa Cheol, featuring Sean O'Graham, is hot off the press. Yes. So, Fáilte Rove, it's great to see you.
It's great to be here, Lynette. Thanks for... Yeah.
This is what we do here to make people feel special, is give them a snug and a place in the snug, because you can never get one in Maddens. So pulled out all the stops.
Can't beat a snug.
So both families are musical, immersed in the music. Yeah. Was you two getting together like a coming together of the clans, was it like?
Do you want to tell her where we met?
You tell the story. Make it sound romantic.
I'm actually struggling.
Was it that long ago?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was in February there. It was 20 years ago since we met the night. I know.
Yeah, at the back of Quinn's. Very romantic.
In Dublin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just beside Croke Park, for anyone who's not familiar with it. It's been closed for a while. Now I'm wondering. It's reopening soon.
Every culture from this side of the kind of country, that's their entry point to Dublin. Quinn's.
Yeah,
we met there anyway 20 years ago.
Oh my gosh. On a match day?
No.
I've opened a door here, have I?
Student night out. No, middle of February. Yeah, no, student night out. And, student night out for Caitlín. For me, it was just a random Tuesday or Wednesday night.
I was still in school, Annette.
And
I was out celebrating my mocks with my friends, and you were there with some music friends, and I was there with some music friends, and he sidled up at the bar beside me and said something like, you don't remember. So my brother-in-law is Owen O'Brien, and you know him, and you just said that. You said something about Owen. So that was it. I don't know what else happened after that.
So you've Owen to thank then for
Owen to thank.
Owen was the chat-up line. Owen O'Brien, the chat-up line.
I know. There was a good bit of to and fro, and then for a year or so after that, before we finally made it official, I think. But I was only in school. I was like, what's this? What's going on? I'd never even been to Donegal. Maybe for the Fla, the Letterkenny Fla. Oh yeah, I've been up at the winter school maybe as well. Yeah, so that was it.
Oh my goodness, there we go. Quinn's. Yeah. So when it reopens then next year, you'll be making the pilgrimage.
Yeah, my hell.
Back to the scene of the crime. So then was there any? Did you know she was one of the McGowan's from Ashbourne? Or did you know that he was one of the O'Weenies from Gidor? You know the way the families, everybody kind of knows each other in this scene.
I was very aware of Anya and Bernadette and her dad Tony, and I was aware of Caitlín as well, though I didn't know her, but I knew she played concertina because I remember I would have been friends with another person who was out that night. Was actually Anya Bird, and a friend of Caitlín. She's married to Jack Talty, and Anya and Caitlín would have been good mates, but I would have been in fiddle classes from I was about 14 that Anya would have been in, and I knew that we were in the same orbit. It was gonna happen eventually.
Oh, anyway, he knew the crack then. Oh yeah, there you go.
To me now, sister.
I was smitten day one.
Oh, it was no accident. Oh, that's a lovely story to tell the kids anyway. It's gorgeous for them. So like families now, and I suppose we're seeing that this week as well with Tradfest. It's all about, there's loads of families around, and you're seeing generations of families that we haven't seen in a long time, and there's a real sense of that getting together. How important was that sense of family as you were growing up? Was that, I just imagine, like in your house, that it was always a big part of everything, Caitlín?
Yeah, I'm the youngest in my house, and they all play and dance. My mum dances, so the dancing was always a big part of it as well. And there'd be house dances in the house a few times a year. But my dad taught fiddle for 40 odd years in the sitting room every Monday night, and taught nearly all the fiddle players around the county would come in for every Monday night. And so that was my kind of, I'd fall asleep every Monday night down in the bedroom, be sent down to bed, listening to him teaching the lessons. And very similar for Ciarán, I suppose, because your grandja Francie was the fiddle teacher in the parish as well, and that was only across the road from you, and you were over and back all the time. But I kind of took to the dancing first, and then the music came later. But because the others were older than me, I was always trying to like keep up, like play with them. If they were going playing somewhere, I want to go as well. So you're trying to keep up with them, or there was always someone at home to kind of show you the next tune or the next step. So it was very lucky like that it was all at home. But as I was saying to you there, that was the whole upbringing, was that our summer holidays were spent at the Flas and at the festivals. There was no such thing as Lanzarote; it didn't exist, and we didn't know anything else. So it's great then when you see so many families here, and people always ask us, how do you get them interested, or how do you keep them at it? And I always say, well, are there friends playing? Have they friends playing? And it's that kind of full thing. If they're having the crack, then they'll want to come and play again. Like Ciarán mentioned Anya there, I've some of my best friends and bridesmaids at our wedding are the girls that I grew up playing with. And every Friday night we'd have our session in the Gael School in Ashburn, our kiddie session, and our parents would be lined up at the front of the room playing through our tunes with us slowly, like keeping us steady, keeping us on the straight and narrow. And we were very lucky to have a number of like musical families around us as well, whose parents played, or one of the parents played, like Catherine McAvoy's there, and like Jerry Bird and Hughie Grogan and Tom O'Shaughnessy and dads, and so there was a good number of families, and it was all about the sleepovers. Like that was the crack. Like we'd go to the session on a Friday night, and we'd have a sleepover after.
Yeah, so you learned the music by proxy, really. It was just the gateway to the crack.
Yeah, if I have to play, but am I getting the sleepover after? Like that's what I want.
Yeah,
that's what we want.
You'll
really
stick at it. And it seems like you had a real good network there. So it wasn't just your family, loads of families in the area, and then that kind of support network was all just there. So that makes it just really easy.
That's it, came together, and like the sleepovers, we'd be having a few tunes as well. So it was very normal and natural to have those, and great to have those other families whose parents were equally as into the music and obsessed with the music and wanting their kids to be into it as my family was, so that you're not the only one. So having that network and community of young kids coming up together and getting better together and learning the same tunes over the course of a few months together, so then you get to play them together, like it's fun. Like that's what that was our idea of fun. And you're growing, it was like, yay, new tune.
And then you growing up then in Gweedore, with generations of a family steeped in traditional music as well, was it just in the family, or was it in the network around the area when you were growing up? Fáchan na gá inis ó Arahori and Fád Crealta Seo. A few words now from the sponsors of this podcast, Music at Maddens. Dunville's Irish whiskey, proudly connected to its past and enthusiastically embracing its future. The spirit of Belfast is back, and it's even better than ever. And I should tell you, Dunville's also sponsors Belfast Trad Fest as well. And this Irish whiskey story is one of fame, fortune, tragedy and revival. It does sound epic, doesn't it? Now restored to its rightful place amongst the world's best whiskies, Dunville's award-winning single malt and vintage blend Irish whiskies are synonymous with premium quality, exquisite taste and rich heritage. And for over 18s only, and please drink responsibly. Sláinte. This week's Music at Maddens is brought to you by Anzac Drinks, which is one of the last remaining family-owned businesses in the north, supplying a wide range of spirits and wines and beers and premium exclusive products, proudly supporting local brands and bringing them to bars and restaurants and off licenses, giving them the spotlight they truly deserve. Along with working in partnership with market leading global brands, they're committed to personal service, competitive pricing and long-term customer relationships. Anzac Drinks are trusted by independent businesses across Northern Ireland for their reliability and expertise, and they are passionate about helping customers discover both retailer favourites and unique finds. Over 18s only, and please drink responsibly.
It's a funny one. It's a wee bit different to Caitlín's experience, because I suppose when I was growing up my age group, I was the only young fella. The only other young fella who played and sang was Dimrick McGillivray, who was 6 years older. And I say that because when I came in to say like first year in secondary school, he was just exiting.
Mm-hmm.
So he was always that bit just beyond. So until I was for a lot of my years growing up, I was kind of like a lone ranger. So there was this thing that I did that I knew I would always do because it was in the family. That I knew I'd play the fiddle. I don't know why, it was just in me, and I was learning from my grandfather, and I'd go and do small gigs with Francie around the place, in the summer especially, and but no, it felt like an alien in your own parish, but like, and there was times it didn't go well because I'd have a sports bag on one shoulder, a school bag on the other shoulder, and a fiddle in my hand. And when you're carrying 3 or 4 heavy things like that, you're prime for a beating on the school bus. Like, so it was kind of kicked up and down. So it was a wee bit of that until I remember there was a course in the Mard. So there was tourists in the valley would go to, so 4 Irish musicians, be it, used to go to Scotland, and it would be there'd be a poet, there'd be a fiddle player, there might be another musician and a singer would go to Scotland, and there was a reciprocal tour over here, and Alan Henderson from Maonaigh, I think, near, and he's now living on the Western Isles. Great fiddle player, was on the trip that landed in Gweedore when I was about 15, and I wasn't getting on well at school. I'd had to opt out of a load of like plays and Gamararty and pantomimes, different things, because I'm playing the fiddle, because I was getting bullied to bits, and it wasn't worth taking your fiddle, and you were getting kicked up and down. And then Alan Henderson came in, and all the school were brought in, and the Curse of the Mard did a wee display for half an hour of poetry from Scotland, and we were hearing Gaelic from Scotland, how like it was with Irish, and then Alan Henderson asked me up to play a tune, and I happened to have my fiddle for some other reason in the school that day, so it went up and we played a tune that Mairead and Frankie, so my aunt Mairead Newini and Frankie Kennedy wrote, and I barely knew the tune, but I hung in with him and we played it through, and the place erupted. And from that moment on, it was like a light bulb switch. It was like some of the lads in school was like, oh, he's got something going on here. Someone from Scotland who never met him before recognised, must have got a heads up, there's someone in there. And that moment just switched it. And I don't know, I really feel that it's great now with all the young people playing, because if there's one fella sitting on his own playing, I know he's going to get a hard time. But if there's 4 or 5 of them, and like Caitlín said, if they've got mates around them, there's a network, but also that their peers see them performing or playing or do something, and that it's worthwhile. Another thing was that I was doing gigs with Francie, say in the Coshalaw or Glenveigh Castle, cultural days or whatever, and there'd be various gigs a week that I would do with Francie, and you get your pocket money, and the lads in the class were working in petrol stations for 8-10 hours shifts, and I was getting the same money as them for doing an hour and a half or doing it, and when they saw that was another thing that
it flipped the switch again.
It flipped the switch, and they just realised, there's it's worthwhile. It's not just because it did come with them. There was this view of it, that it was a lesser thing, that it was something from our past that we should have left behind us. And it was only when that monetary thing came in and the and then they could see that there's actual energy in it.
My goodness.
So it was a bit different from Caitlín.
My goodness. I did not expect to hear that answer from you. I knew that there wasn't the big network of music in Donegal, and because I've watched it grow over the years, Ciarán, but I had no idea that was your experience, and that can't have been easy for you to say that, and thank you very much, and I'm sorry it happened to you. That's just awful.
Well, to be honest, there's an attitude in Donegal and in Donegal music and in Donegal in general, is that we're very proud of something that we have, and when we have something, kind of a I have to begrudgers kind of attitude. I had that, and I knew I had something. It took me a while to click. I didn't click till I was about 14 as well. I remember going to Milton, and I only had 3 tunes, and then very quickly, I'd been learning from I was 7. My grandfather, I'd say, broke his heart. I wouldn't practice, I wouldn't do anything. But when it clicked that there was girls and
up the road you
crack.
came and you said, right, Prunches, get at it, come on, let's learn.
I heard that you came home from Milton with a list of tunes. I need the Tarbolton. I need
No way.
I can't read music, and Francie could, but not really great. So I had him O'Neill's out and going through the names. Sheehan's, aye, how's that go? And he'd rub over the first 7 or 8 notes, aye, and we'd get that, like,
Was he loving this?
Oh, I sure. Basically, he was
Finally, he's gone.
for days and days. I'm going over and back. Get O'Neill's out. Oh, really? Okay. He was loving it. Yeah, no, it was great crack.
Oh my God. But also, and whenever, obviously, when you were in the moment of all that happening to you as a young lad, like our teenage years are not easy, made so much worse by your experience. But now, when you look back and you're older, do you not look on those moments that you had, that experience you had with your granddad, and now that he's gone as well, so special. Not everybody gets that, to not just to spend time with their granddad, but for him to be passing something so precious down to you, and then for you and him just to go off on your travels gigging to Glenveigh Castle and in Cushlocha. Like, that sounds class.
Yeah. Well, it was only really me as a grandchild at that stage. Rasha came along slightly later. I suppose I was about 14, 15 when she came along, and then Nia is the other grandchild. She'd be Mairead's, and she was a baby when Francie died. But so I was kind of like a lone ranger at that stage with them, and plus my mum had a brain hemorrhage when I was about 3 or 4, so I was kind of half reared in that house. It was directly across the road from Mum and Dad's house, so I was like 50% reared by Francie and Kitty and Mum and Dad then, and I was a ferocious eater. I came home from school, I went over to Kitty and Francie and got the dinner, then I go back home and get the dinner, then I'd go back over and make a supper in Kitty and Francie's, and then I'd come back over and make myself a midnight snack like before. So I was between it all eating everybody out of house and home. But the rare, I was delighted. Francie was great with me. He was massive on football and he was massive on music, and we were basically in each other's pockets the whole time, like, so
best buddies. What a really special relationship. Like, it's gorgeous. And then, as you say, your aunties, Mairead and Dana Niwini, and Anna sadly passed away last year, and I'm very sorry for that loss. And then your daddy then as well, Garage. It was all there, but the one family carrying this. And what I find really interesting is that from an outsider's perspective as well, we went to Donegal seeking out the music, seeking out the songs, seeking all this out, and then you tell me of the experience you had from the people there. So it is crazy how
and I don't mean to be down on people from Gweedore, because it's
this happens all over. We've had loads of stories here, and this is how the thing is changing. So many people on the podcast have told us about learning music as a teenager and hiding the case, hiding the instrument because it wasn't cool, and not making sure nobody saw it. They loved the music, but no, cheapers not. They can't be seen because. Whereas now, it's that badge of honour. We're seeing the kids walking about with them. It's no problem anymore.
Is it post-colonial guilt? What is it? Like, it's...
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something...
Or
But
is it those difficult teenage years where you just don't want to stand out?
Yeah.
You generally, as a teenager, you just want to blend in with everyone and don't single me out. You don't want to be the one that's standing out and like doing anything different, because you're just, everything. It's a hard time.
Yeah.
For those few years.
But there is that. There's also a tranness in the Gaeltacht person. Like, there's a reason the Gaelic lived in Gweedore. And it was and there's articles about Gweedore football. These are the ones written in the 1920s. These people speak Gaelic between them as if, wow, like, look at them. They're still there was an attitude of the back of beyonds. The Gweedore ones were the back of beyonds. There's that kind of and the Gweedore ones were like, yes, this is ours. Kind of sticking the fingers up to them, and so there's that, and then the music is sitting in a pocket there, somewhere in between, and it's all, it's a very hard thing to put your finger on what's going on there, but it's far better. Like Francie and Baba Brennan did so much work teaching in the 3 parishes, teaching music, and very shortly after Francie and Baba stopped teaching, and the Crannog started off with Clan Joe Jack, and the work that Caitlín Joe Jack and PJ Joe Jack and loads of people put into the Crannog starting off, and that thing is thriving now. So it's changed the thing completely.
And is a couple of focal for Urhori and Fod Crealta Shaw. A couple of words about our very kind sponsors, Rira Irish Lager. Nish Rira, if you haven't heard about it, it kind of sums up the unpredictable devilment that Irish people are so very good at, particularly here in Maddens, in the heart of Belfast. So Rira celebrates the best bits of being Irish by creating reasons to talk, to meet, to gra, to bant, to hear, to be heard, to be lechela, just that little more often. So music at Maddens, dig it and dig and tossa. Agus anish, scoopla focal a charja for 18s and over, and please drink responsibly. Couple of focal anish fwy Urhori and Fod Crealta Shaw music at Maddens. Music at Maddens is sponsored by McElroy Guitars, perfectly balanced, superb craftsmanship, wonderful clarity and tone, a truly unique sound. It's only natural to want one. McElroyGuitars.co.uk for more details. Yeah. And Baba Brennan, you mentioned, that is the mother of Clannad.
Of Clannad, yeah.
Who sometimes everybody hears about Leo and going to Leo's and Leo's accordion, and Baba there was the sacred weapon with the choirs and the harmonies, and and the work that she did with the pantomimes in the school as well.
Yeah.
And I've heard members of Clannad referencing those pantomimes and saying just how transformational they were in opening their mind to how music could communicate. So it's just like the power of music and everybody going to seek it out. But like, you two coming together then, right? So you're coming from very different places, even though the music's very strong in the family, right? Very different experiences socially, I suppose. And then whenever you get together and you go to Donegal and then you go to Meath, what did you make of the other's place and space and where they were brought up?
Well,
because you said you hadn't been to Donegal much.
Not much. I had, I suppose I'd been up at the winter school, at the Frankie Kennedy winter school, but we didn't know each other then, and I was just up with a gang of friends for a couple of nights.
Those were the days.
Yeah, I know, the Ostend and the Ostend.
The Ostend.
Yeah.
Seamus Begley's New Year's Eve party. Oh my goodness.
No. Wild.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
I tell you. I wonder if anybody would be brave enough to tell stories about those nights on this.
I remember just going up for those, and it's obviously, New Year's Eve, so the weather is wild, the wind is blowing you sideways, and just the landscape there. And I hadn't really, I grew up a lot going to Clare, so familiar with the landscape and the music down there. But it is obviously, like the slogan for Donegal was, up here it's different, and you feel that when you go up. And we didn't really play together for a good few years. We were kind of just going out, and then we play a few sessions. But you were going with fiddle, and I went off a river dance. We were kind of doing our own separate thing. And obviously Ciarán is brilliant, I'd love sitting in next to him and love the energy that he brings to a session, like just strong and energy and life, and just great crack. But then when you brought me down to Glencolmkill to the Fiddle Week there for the first time, it was a whole other experience in the tunes that you get down around there. I didn't know any of them, and like I grew up in the world of Irish music in Ireland, going to all the flats. I can pick up a tune easily, and it's all very natural and grand, and I sit in a session. By the third time round, I more or less kind of nearly have the tune kind of thing. Couldn't know where the start and ends were when I was sitting into the sessions in Glencolm, and I was like, where have I landed? And I know that's not really the repertoire that you play in Hudies or the tunes that you played most of the time anyway, but when we were down there, I just thought this was absolutely brilliant, that there's this community and repertoire of music that you get in this one pocket of the country, and you don't really hear these tunes anywhere else around the country. And still, we're going there next week. Still, when we go back now over the years, then we'd go back to that every year. Got to know the tunes, but they're not like the normal tunes that I would have grown up with from my dad and my own concertina people. They're kind of more unpredictable. They have turns and twists in them that you don't see coming. And they sound a little bit and feel a little bit different than what I would have grown up, which would be like Clare music and my dad's music and music for set dancing and that
so
kind
I'm
of.
sensing that you found there was an excitement in that for you.
Really, I thought it was really exotic.
It's like being from Donegal.
Donegal,
Just exotic.
Do you know when something sounds so new and fresh, but kind of familiar, but still really new and exotic? And like after that, I started playing more of those tunes, and then I'd go and bringing them home, and they'd be different to the kind of tunes you're playing at home. But it was fun to come into that then as well, and learn about that tradition up there.
And then for you, Ciarán, then going into Meath, and I suppose as Caithlín's daddy's a well-known fiddle player as well, then you're landing in just maybe keeping the fiddle behind you for a wee while then, right? Right, Tony, how you doing?
There was that, but at the same time, I knew a lot of the tunes. I spent a lot of time working on tunes that weren't from Donegal. Like there's a repertoire in Donegal, but falling in with Caithlín's family felt very natural because there's loads of, it's just constant music. So it was. Now, I'm no dancer. I don't even have two left feet. Like and
I've been
I
trying
felt,
my hardest.
That's where I found it hard with the dancing, because I'm not engaging there at all, because I just can't. I'm awful, and I know it. So that's okay. But I can sit and play for dancers all day. Like I love that. Like, and there's a great vibe. And Caithlín's family would have been. They're really unique in that way, because they have this house dance at the start of every year, and it was for years and years. It was the first Céilí house of the year, so on the first Saturday of the year, I think for about 30 years, there was they had a Céilí house, and RTE Radio 1 came out and broadcast it. But apart from that, it was a house dance, and it was a proper house dance where all the furniture was taken out of the house. Firms brought in 40 to 50 musicians.
Literally around
plus,
the house and mind the dresser.
Yeah. You're dancing in front of the dresser.
40 musicians minimum, 2 sets minimum going on in the house at any given time, and it would last till 5-6 in the morning, and twice in the middle of that tea would be brought out, and no drinking. So it was a bit different to what I was used to.
Yeah.
Because I was very much brought up in a house party plus pub environment, and alcohol would have been around it a lot. So I wasn't used to this thing where it was, it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that's fine too. But it was just different, but I knew the music, and I knew to get stuck in the music, and music's like it doesn't matter where you go in the world, it dissolves differences in language, whatever, in how people think, whatever. You have a common language with the music, and it's just magic. And I felt really at home with them. They couldn't be more welcoming. They're great people.
Imagine to be growing up in a house like that, but that's normal, of a Saturday night once a month. That this is like just everybody come in, and you're on national radio as well, like the Caitlín House.
And then you go into school on Monday and, did you get up to it? No, not much. No, just keep it down because people don't get it. They don't understand.
Right.
But Mum and Dad built the house in the early 70s with the intention of having house dances. So it's actually laid out. Like, so when people hear 40 to 50 musicians in 2 sets, they think it's not. Like, it's just that it's one long room and they line up the musicians, and
So you have a hall in the house.
it's kind of like a big wide room.
They had open plan before there was such a thing
That's
as
right,
open
yeah.
plan.
That's very true.
Plan for St. Johnson.
Yeah.
That's just phenomenal.
Yeah, well, see, my mum's parents came from West Clare. They were set dancers, and her father, Micheál Murphy, and her mother, Biddy Pierce, moved to Dublin and raised my mum and her siblings in Dublin. He was the farmer at Kappa Hospital, so he looked after the farm and the growth that fed the hospital. And with the job came a house in the grounds of Kappa Hospital, and that's where they were reared. But his sister was Josie, and she was a spinster and by all accounts a formidable woman. She was an egg inspector for the Department of Agriculture. All these jobs that don't exist anymore.
These jobs are amazing.
Yeah, but she was, and all the musicians around Dublin of the 60s and the different clubs knew Josie Murphy, and nobody was left sitting. Everyone was up dancing, and my granddad was like that as well. Micheál was, oh, come on, get up. Like I'd say now, if he knew you, if you were around, you wouldn't be left sitting. Get up. But Josie, in her house, had the house dances for all the Clare people living in Dublin regularly, and they used to take the door off the hinges, and they'd all congregate in the sitting room, and one said they'd not line up, but they'd be congregating around,
There was a
having their
waiting room,
drink.
a waiting room there, so there'd be a gang in there waiting
dancing.
for their chance to get dancing.
To get into the kitchen.
And the two musicians sitting up on the table.
Yeah.
So
And when they got their set danced, they'd go out the back door, and the next gang would come in and get to dance their set, and it would be this revolving all night.
that's around the house and mind the dresser.
And then at the end of the night, they'd bring back in the furniture at 5, and they'd go down to 6 o'clock mass. Like, this is the 60s now. So that was the tradition of my mum's aunt and her side of the family in Dublin for all the Clare gang. So whenever Josie got a bit old, to keep that going, Mum and Dad took it over.
And I just love that was your normal. You know, you grew up with this tradition that's been handed down, and it was just so normal in your house. But you recognised, you were cute enough to recognise going into school on a Monday morning, not so cool to mention the house Kelly on Saturday night.
Well, that's why you seek out the people who are also have a bit of the crazy in their background and in their weekends. Like, oh, you get it.
Is it just the glint in the eye?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
You're my normal is your normal.
That's probably where we when we met, we knew. I knew because you were always at that age. You always had your eye out. You're looking for, right, obviously you want
someone who'll
this
get
gorgeous woman as a star. So, but then you're looking for who's gonna be happy to let me sit in the corner for 12 hours and play tunes 2 or 3 times a week, like, and think that's normal.
You're the one for me.
It's a pretty low bar. But you're happy for me to sit in the corner and also play for 12 hours.
That's what I mean, kindred spirits.
Oh my gosh, brilliant. But you know what, I have to say though, the two of you aren't as slow as you walk easy, so there might be the glint in the eye and the craziness, but you're both professional musicians, and you're making this work for you as well, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first of all, let's take a break on Music at Maddens, and we'll have a message now from our sponsors.
Why who? Sadly.
So, Caitlín Nic Gabhann and Ciarán Maonaigh with us this week on Music at Maddens, and I want to talk about the business of music with you, because it occurs to me that you're very entrepreneurial, and it's just looking at the ways you found to make it work, because it's not an easy gig. It's not easy to be a traditional musician. It's not easy to earn a living from it. But between classes, lessons, embracing online, and now, Caitlín, as I mentioned, your visits to your week visits for concertina weeks in Donegal and Meath, it just struck me that this is do you feel that you have to be constantly coming up with the ideas to keep it fresh? Is that what you feel you have to do to make it work?
Well, yeah, it's not an easy path to decide that you're going to be a traditional musician for your job, and like wouldn't have been encouraged, like, but what are you going to do? So we went through college and we did get qualifications, and did that, but then there's this pull and draw that you can't
What did
actually
you do?
not do it. I did secondary school teaching. I went to UCC, which I loved, and had an absolutely great time there. Studied music and Gaelic, and then I eventually did the dip for secondary school teaching, but knew nearly straight away I did finish the course. I'm going to see it through, but I'm not going to do this. I couldn't see myself going down that line. And shortly after, we started playing together. We weren't playing together, I'd say, for the first 5 years, like as a duo kind of thing. And we made the decision, if we want to be together, we have to play together. And it was kind of
I think before that we were afraid to play together, as in
This could be make or break.
Well, no. Well, no, I don't know. I was aware of maybe there's interpolitics that goes on in ensembles or in group, more than one musician playing with each other, that becomes. That is great sometimes, but also can be divisive because there's two different ideas going on about the same thing. So I think I definitely had a conscious thing in the head. It was like, our relationship
Keep them separate.
is too important to let this thing become a. But then eventually it
We
became the
ended
flip of that. It was like, if we don't
We'll never
play
see each
together,
other.
we'll never see each other.
Yeah.
So
we
that
came
flipped
together
on its
and-
head.
But you had to overcome that fear, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like
It was a really weird thing where we absolutely completely avoided it. Definitely conscious on my part.
I remember you saying it, but we were both doing our own thing anyway. It wasn't like we were saying no to invitations. Like fiddle was really on the go. I was in college down in Cork. Like when we started going out, I was in Cork and he was in Donegal. That was the first 3 years of us going out. So we'd meet up at festivals every now and again, and I went off at Riverdance for a couple of years. But coming out of the dip for secondary school teaching, we started then. We were like, right, I don't want to do that, so let's do this, and started setting up some gigs in America, which I found pretty easy to set up, and they were so willing and welcoming and helpful over there to get us over. Like, I got to go to the Catskills Irish Arts Week a few times, and I made loads of friends there and great contacts, and they helped me set up tours. So once you get the visa, you can go and one would hook you on to the next. Oh, I know someone 2 hours down the road. Go there the next night when you're setting it up. And it was easy because it was just the two of us. We were in the one car. We'd show up, we'd play, they'd put us up, and then the next day we'd go on to. So we actually had a great time going around. We did a number of tours on the east coast of America, 1 or 2 over on the west coast. And that's when we really got to know each other's music for playing together as a duet. It's not two individuals playing your individual music. You have to blend, you have to merge, you have to bend. So Ciarán is obviously so strong as your music, as a fiddle player from Donegal, and the music that is in your heart and from your family, and that, we respect that. And I'm the same, and I'm very conscious of what I'm bringing to the table then as well. So trying to merge them and complement each other and give and take over and back over all those tours that we did in America. It naturally, it wasn't really conscious, but just the fact that we were playing together every night, we were able to kind of give and take. And then over the course of a few years, it got like
you
my
got the repertoire
favourite.
then.
Yeah, and the easiest person to play with, just settle in and link in with each other. And I found that, like, it's still, I use my favourite person, but I love playing with them now. If we get to sit beside each other in a session, it's my favourite thing. I love doing that because it's just easy and natural over and back. But through all those tours in America, I got these. Anywhere we would go, there would be an invite to teach as well. So if we were doing a gig somewhere, they'd say, "Oh, any chance you'd also do a fiddle workshop and a concertina workshop that day?" And there was always I was amazed at the demand for concertina. Like, whatever about fiddles, the demand for concertina workshops in random places. Like, and you'd have a class of them, of adults learning. I'm like, this is like amazing. So then in between tours, we'd come home and I'd do some maybe Skype lessons. So kind of set up some lessons in Dublin, just kind of tie you over in between
Skype
tours.
never really hit the button because it was always a wee bit out of sync, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was,
And then you were forced to do things online then in that dreaded time we'll not go back to or mention. But I suppose it did change the game and for things in so many ways where possibly now with that little bit of distance you can take the good out of it, that things have changed for the better and maybe lessons were learned that these things can be done in a particular way, which makes it easier on yourself as well, maybe. Because I've noticed, you know, the lessons online are so very well presented. You know, you've clearly put an awful lot of thought into them. And, you know, that seems to be working. You know, is it easy to market that? Is there a demand for that sort of thing?
Yeah, so what happened was we kind of finished up touring a bit, and you started working. Ciarán works in TV as well a lot, and you got this offer of a great job that was a full-time job, and it was going to be making traditional music programs for TG Carr and based in Gweedore. And at this stage we were married 3 or 4 years. We were living in Dublin, didn't really know where we were going to settle. And so this was kind of this is now happening. We're moving to Gweedore. So we kind of knew that kids were going to maybe start coming on the cards in the next few years after
just to backtrack slightly, I think I remember us recording the album called Caitlín and Ciarán. We came up with great labels and brands.
Sometimes the simpler the better. The people know exactly what they're getting.
But I remember us recording that album, and I remember us chatting about a 5-year. We're going to gig hard and as hard as we can for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I remember a tax form going in on stage where we declared 240 something gigs for the year, plus I'd recorded a 6-part series of what was Maonaigh at the time in that year. So I'd say we were working.
That's a lot.
We weren't at home. We were at home. I tried to figure out. I reckon we were home 11 to 12 days that year to wash the clothes.
It's as well you were gigging together because you definitely wouldn't have seen each other.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
No, we went
traveling,
at it, and we went at it awful hour.
Yeah. But sometimes you have to make those decisions in order to make it work.
Yeah.
And you know, like when you look back though, any regrets about going as hard at it because now the wee ones are here. It changes everything completely.
This is it. Like when as I said, that was our time to get to know each other as a duet. And I know now we'll be playing together for the rest of our lives. Like maybe if we hadn't put in that hardcore time, you'd still be kind of finding yourselves as a duet because we did come from different musical backgrounds. And then, as he said, I kind of like, oh, maybe in the next couple of years we'll start thinking about maybe kids or something like that. And I moved to Gweedore, and you were doing the job, and it was kind of like, well, what am I going to do now? Because my whole thing for 5 or 6 years or whatever was organising our tours and managing the tours and doing the tours and promoting them and all of that. And I really didn't want to go getting a secondary school teaching job. I just wanted to see, can I do anything else? I also wanted to be at home with the kids if I could and not have to, on my terms, be with them as much. So that's when I got the idea to set up Irish concertina lessons, which was kind of a blessing that I did it at that time, which was 2018. And then added the intermediate level course 2019 because then when, as you said, COVID hit, it was already up and running and established. And I got very lucky then. It was one of the businesses that did well out of that time. And I know there's loads of businesses that didn't get on well, but because everyone was stuck at home and couldn't get out to their sessions and their lessons, it did quite well. And a lot of people were coming on to learn concertina on the website all over the world from their homes.
And giving it a go like that, you know, and trying different things, that takes an awful lot of confidence as well. You know, in yourself, you're putting yourself out there in a completely different way. And you know, we're looking at social media now, and I think a lot of people are waking up to seeing how important it is, you know, that you need your brand out there and all the rest of it. So many people are uncomfortable with it because we can't look at ourselves, listen to ourselves, all these things. What does it take for you to do that, to go and try something new, to put yourself out there, when you know yourself there could be naysayers behind the scenes going, would you look at your one, and all the rest of it. It's a tough one to do.
Well, having confidence in yourself and integrity, but also it was the need, I have to make this work, because the alternative, I really don't want to have to go and do it. So it's this or it's that. I'm going to put everything into making this work and doing it right from the start. Like, people would say, oh, just get it out there and you can fix it up later. And I know, like, first impressions matter. When people come onto the site and they get that first impression, they see what they see and they see it's professional, they'll know, oh, I can trust this, I can buy into this, and I'm happy to stay here. And it's a thing in the back of their head, I'm happy if I get on well here, I'll stick with it. So I put a lot of planning and time and effort into the planning of each lesson, so that there wasn't too much in each lesson or too little in each lesson, that it was graded so that they got gradually harder as they went down through the course. But it was that kind of necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention. I really didn't want to have to go and do. I wanted to be working my own hours for myself, to be able to be with the twins the rest of the time.
Really, really important.
I think there's something in the music, and I was teaching here all week, and I was saying to the people in the class, have you ever heard yourself speak? And the first time anybody hears themselves speak, it's like you almost wince, because it's not what you hear to your ear. It's completely different, and it's that difference. And I think as a musician, especially as a fiddle player, the fiddle is right against your throat. So it's the same experience. The first time you hear yourself playing the fiddle is it's like an alien is playing the fiddle. You've never heard this before. So I'm trying to tell the people in the class this week, you have to record yourself and listen to yourself from 6 feet away. This is what the other people are hearing. And I think musicians, and I'm not saying that we're great musicians or anything, but I know that we're able to play it at a reasonably good level. And to get to that part of the experience there is you have to get used to your own voice and how that it projects, and become aware and become thick-skinned and develop a lot of the skills that make you entrepreneurial, or be able to project what you have as a person or as a personality or as a musician, to be able to project that over to other people. You have to work on that. You have to put a lot of work into it. You have to record yourself, listen back to yourself, be your own worst critic, be your own best critic, pat yourself on the back, because if you don't do that, nobody else is going to. You'll never actually get out of your own bedroom. So that's I think that's really critical, and that's where musicians have. You mentioned the word entrepreneurial kind of mindset. I think it comes from that. Now, if I'd say to anybody out there, if you want to do something with as little work to get maximum effect out of it, don't work as a musician for you, because it's really hard, and you have to work night and day, and it's all consuming, and that's what we do. It's who we are. So we've no other choice. That's it. It's either that or take up a random job and just nearly half retire yourself and be okay with that.
And today's TED Talk on confidence comes from Kieran.
Sorry.
That was brilliant. That was so good, because it's such good advice that we probably don't give each other. And I think that's absolutely such a nugget there, Kieran. Like, it's brilliant. No, thank you so much for that. Yeah. It's class. And then does that, when I mentioned the entrepreneurial thing, that's what I saw in the idea of the concertina weeks. I thought that's class. And when you think about it too, you're from Meath. You've then got this connection with Donegal. You've lived in Donegal, so you know it intimately as well. And then the history of the two places, and the Gaelic, the music, the landscape, the history, you're mixing it all together. It's kind of a no-brainer, as most of the best ideas are.
Well, it was a very easy one when I moved up there first. It was I moved up, it's a Guidor, and we all know how beautiful it is, the sea and the mountains and the the islands and the language and the culture and the songs and the singers and the music and the musicians and all the great musicians that come from around there, and not only even just the landscape. And we had just finished our mad touring 7 years in America, and I had been done all the teaching over there, and I said, oh my God, they would love to come here and they would love to see this, and this is perfect. So it was very easy after that. I just push it out. Would anyone like to come to Guidor and do? So the idea is that we do concertina classes in the morning, and in the afternoon we go out and we learn about the local area. So we have walking tours, or we go out to Gola Island, or we go to Glenveigh Castle, and we have Brian Danny Minnie coming, we've Mairead coming and giving them a concert. So every afternoon there's something like that. And I've run it now for 7 or 8 years, and they book in straight away, and most of the people come from America. I think 8 out of the 10 this year came from America. So they're coming, they want to come, they want to be in the real place.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking Meath has so much history, obviously, as well.
Absolutely.
So this year I did my first one in Meath, based it. I put them up just beside Trim Castle, across the road from Trim Castle, and we learned all about Newgrange, and got Micheál O'Reilly in and Brent Castle. So zoned in on Meath concertina playing, and learned about the history of Meath, and they came from all over as well.
How did that feel? Was it specially, a wee bit special because it was your home country?
Yes, it was. Very proud. And to get Micheál in, who I learned from, and Brenda Castle's in, and like Micheál O'Reilly, Macdara O'Reilly's played a lunchtime concert for us, and I'm there going, I have the best job in the world. I'm going to sit back and watch these giants who Macdara learned from my dad, but we love listening to them. We're in awe of them and their rhythm, and that's a fiddle concertina duet as well, and just, yeah.
Brilliant. It's lovely when it comes together like that, and it's just so rewarding as well. Yeah. But doesn't come together without the hard work, and the graft has been there for years and years and years. So sweet to the bait when it works out. But
I'm sure all the
it's how you show up in the hard days too, isn't it?
Oh, this is it, and it's no joke working with your spouse either. Like, we kill each other. So don't be thinking now it's all roses.
I'm saying nothing.
To be honest, you were painting a fantastic picture there. But I do have a little surprise for you that I'll get to in a minute. Kieran O'Winey at Lashawn O'Graham. So for everybody watching on YouTube, I've got this in my hand. Hot off the presses, by the way. Lost in the Music, Caillte sa Cheol, a brand new album. And I have to say, absolutely gorgeous. I was really drawn to the Unst Bridal March. Where'd you get that?
Unst. So Unst is, if you were looking for in this particular jurisdiction, the most northerly post office, next stop, actually more northerly on the line than Bergen. Unst is the most northerly point of the Shetland Islands.
Right.
And we played there May 2024.
Right.
Mad experience. The electricity went out for all the islands. In the middle of us performing a song, High Seas were playing there. Cathal O'Curran was singing. We were playing along with them. Lights went out, and kind of without losing the beat, we just said, "Show must go on." Continued on. End of the song, crowd erupted. The Friedel sisters were there the same night. There was a brass ensemble. What was it? Tenement jazz band. Fantastic. And 300 people from Unst crammed into a small parish hall. It was absolutely fantastic. And I'll tell you, the Unst Bridal March, where that came from. Do you remember Virgin Megastore used to be behind us here? I do. Right? So my ma's from Shaw's Road, right? And
you did that very well, you couldn't tell.
She shops when she go into Castle Court here in the 90s. Christ, sorry, excuse my language. She go in there, and 4 hours later, she's still looking at the same 3 tops and Debenhams and 2 other places. And I don't know. Do I like that one? I don't know. No, it's £2 cheaper down there. Whatever. Me and Dad were around to Virgin Megastore, and I got an album called Da Silver Bow, Topic Records, classic album, Ali Bain, Tom Anderson, and a load of Shetland fiddlers. And I still have that album, and it's still top shelf at home if I ever want to chill out and listen. A load of fiddle players from Shetland, I love it. And I got that tune off that.
Fabulous, and bringing us back to Belfast, and not just to Belfast, but literally a stone's throw from where we're sitting.
You good at throwing stones?
I'm not good. I'm actually. You know,
Only
do you see if I threw a stone at you right now and you're right beside me? I'd miss. I'm so bad. Snowball fight. You do not want me on your team. No, you do not want me on your team. With the new album, it's yourself and Sean O'Graham, and although your very distinctive fiddle playing obviously is to the fore, there's something really fresh and different about it. Did you approach it purposely that way?
That's a great question, because I don't really know the answer to it, but I can tell you what I was thinking about, which was I had recorded an album over 20 years ago, solo album, and I was happy enough with it at the time. I'd just been given an award or a graduate by T.G. Carr for being a young musician at the time, and I was bowled over by that, didn't really know. And I remember Mairead saying something to me. He's like, you've got an opportunity now that loads of young musicians your age and younger out in the country would die for.
Mm-hmm.
Tappy and Jesh. And I was there, no, you're right. Because I remember even between being told that award was coming and 8 weeks later or whatever, when there was 4 or 5 months later when there was the award ceremony, I had to keep this news a secret. But I remember growing up an awful lot in that time, because I was aware that when the news got out about it, that people were going to be listening to me. And that crystallized me to the point where within months I was in recording my first solo album, and that was 2004. I recorded my first solo album. I was 20 years old. I recorded the album, and I said, right, 20 years on, time to lay another marker down. And that was what was in my head. Now I'm a few years older, and it took a few years to get out, but it was like, lay another marker down.
Yeah.
This is what I sound like at this age. At 60, I'm probably coming out of what I was saying. We were playing 240 odd gigs.
Mm-hmm.
That was back 2016, 2017. Now we're playing far less. We've 3 kids. The playing is far, far, far less, and it's kind of aware that not that it might decay, but it's going to change.
I think that's a lovely way to put it, though, that this is a marker of where you're at now. Because it will change, because things do change, and you've embraced change throughout your career. You know, whether it was starting off with that solo album with the brilliant advice from your auntie, Mairead Ní Mhaonaigh, who I would only imagine has been just a fantastic support in the background, and you listen to what she says, because she's lived it. She's just done it all.
She's still living it.
She
And she won't give up either.
And you know what? Isn't she class?
Yeah,
she
she's
is
right.
She's deadly for it. And and then with Fiddle, the great success you had with that trio as well. Because I remember whenever you started, everyone said, "What do you mean? 3 fiddles and that's it? Just 3 fiddles? Like, how's that going to work?" Oh, let them show you. Like, that was just a phenomenal period in time. And then like your solo album with Caitlín, the High Seas as well, was just brilliant. And then on to this, and not to mention the amount of stuff you've done with your family also. And there's just elements of all this here, and I just thought it was fantastic, Ciarán. So congratulations. I hope it does really well for you.
Well, look, it's a marker. It's laid down. It's there now, and other people will judge it. So I'm very happy with it, I have to say. And Sean Og is what a gem, an absolute gemstone that needs a lot of appreciation, because he's someone that doesn't come around very often. He's a wonder, and hats off to him. He's a gem.
Yeah, big shout out to Sean O'Graham and Bandview Studios and all the brilliant music he's making up there, and that gorgeous setup that he has as well on the banks of the Ban just outside Portland.
Interestingly, just a wee nugget, the place, his houses, Bandview is called the Largy. My ma was born in a place called the Largy just outside Glenavy, so on the other side of Lough Neagh. And then when she was very young, they moved in here to Belfast. Her ma's from just down York Street here. And I just loved the fact that we had the Largy in common. I thought it was here's something that myself and Sean, I know we're from different counties and different accents and all that, but there's a telepathy there that not much needs said. It's just, you know,
Beautiful, kindred spirit.
Mm.
And Caillte sa cheol as well. There's something about that, the power of just losing yourself in it and being in the moment as well. I love that. It's a great title, Ciarán. And 50 minutes of losing yourself right there in that album. We are out of time. I could talk to the two of you all day, but I did want to do a wee quick Mr. and Mrs. thing. So all you have to do is point at the person.
I'm gone.
Point at
I'm joking.
just point at the person you think best answers this question. So it's going to be one or the other of you. So Ciarán, if you think it's Caitlín, point at her. If you think it's you, point at you.
Okay.
And the other way around, right?
Okay.
So who really made the first move? Who's more likely to slip out for a session for an hour or so? I didn't have to answer that question.
Actually, no. In Dublin.
Who takes longer to get ready?
I've seen far worse.
Who
That's a
gets
backhanded compliment. But yeah, no,
Who
she's
gets
great.
up with the kids if they wake up in the middle of the night? Best cook? Who knows the most tunes?
You know, depending on what repertoire tunes you're talking about.
It's just a quick arrow.
We're both very good at that. We're both. No.
And this one now.
You're thinking too long.
Who's the most romantic? Brilliant. There were a couple of very surprising answers there, I have to say.
He's a great cook.
Thanks for being good sports. Great to chat to both of you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us for Music at Maddens.
Gurmeen Maig Lynette, Gurmeen Maig of Maddens for putting us in stupor a few nights during this week. It's absolutely what best pub in the country. The music's fantastic.